Good evening. And that was perfect timing, whoever's cell phone that was. If you'll silence your electronic devices, that would be amazing. We are institutions like New England Conservatory, Westminster Choir College, and Harvard University's Memorial Church. Christa's passion for the organ is infectious, and her performances are filled with an excitement that is truly inspiring. She brings not only incredible talent, but also a wonderful spirit to her teaching and playing, making her a true treasure in the world of music. We are so fortunate to experience her artistry firsthand today. I would invite you to go to walnutstreetmusic.org and see all of the wonderful concerts we have done and the ones we have coming up. Notably, Apollo 5, which is a British choral ensemble, will be here on February 20th, which is a Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. And they're part of the Voces 8 family, if you're familiar with that group. And then the next Sunday organ concert will be by Nathan Lauba on March the 2nd, and you'll want to be here for that as well. Well, please join me in warmly welcoming Christa Rakich to the organ.
Thank you so much. It's a delight and a pleasure to be here. It has been recorded that when J.S. Bach played organ concerts, he liked to frame his program with a prelude and fugue in the same key at the beginning and at the end. So I've kind of taken a page out of his notebook for the beginning of this program. I'm playing his C major prelude and fugue, but in between the prelude and fugue, you'll notice there is a set of Mozart variations. When Bach went to test an organ, he would pull out all the stops and play something big and loud and crashy to see if the organ had good lungs. This C major prelude begins with two big pedal reeds playing an arpeggio, da 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 dee da 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 ba, and then landing on the lowest note, sucking the most wind I can from those two reeds, and then arpeggios and things happening, imitating that opening arpeggio in the hands. So you'll notice that happening at the prelude, and then a little set of Mozart variations, and then the fugue is very staid and very lyrical. The subject stays within a fifth. Da dee da dum, ba da da dee da da dum, and it's just gorgeous, and actually just a little bit Mendelssohnian, I think. So I'll play Bach, Mozart, Bach, and then we'll talk. Thank you, thank you. Oh, gotta love that fugue. So sumptuous. It was Harold Fogel who said once in a masterclass on improvisation, "You should steal, 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 steal from everybody, and then you too can be a second-rate Baroque composer." So in these next three pieces, you will see that I have helped myself to works that have gone before. I stole first from Bach in the same way that Gounod did, and then I stole from Robert Schumann, who wrote a gorgeous song called Widmung, or Dedication, as a wedding gift to his wife. And then lastly, I stole from Gershwin. And the Gershwin story is particularly compelling because it happened when I was asked to substitute for my dear friend Scott Lamline, who is now in Atlanta, lucky Atlanta. But I played for him in church one Sunday, and it was brutally hot. And the closing hymn was, of all things, Slain, Be Thou My Vision. And I thought, that's a dumb closing hymn. What am I supposed to play after that for a postlude? And did I mention it was hot? There was no AC in the church. It was just, I was sitting there at the console dripping and thinking about heat and humidity and sluggishness, and Gershwin came to mind, and the rest is history. Edith Boroff entered the musical field at a time when it was very difficult for a woman to be taken seriously as a composer. She tells a very funny story about auditioning in the 40s at Oberlin Conservatory and playing the piano for what she called a stern group of men. They asked her to play a prelude and fugue, and she reports, "I knew very well who they meant, but they didn't actually say it, so I played one of mine." They thanked her and dismissed her, and on her way out of the room, she overheard one of the professors say to another, "That's interesting, I don't know that one." To which his colleague replied, "Oh, don't be silly, it's from book 2. She was admitted to Oberlin, but not as a composition major, but rather as a pianist. The reason given was that women can't compose. Despite the fact that she had, in fact, been writing music all of her life. This Passacaglia is an early work. She wrote it at the age of 21. It's kind of neo-romantic, I would say. The harmonies are conservative but edgy enough to be really interesting. The Passacaglia theme itself has a hemiola in the middle of it, which is an odd thing to happen. And it just has many, many really wonderful ideas and also very many registration changes, which is perhaps one reason why it doesn't get played all that often. But it is a wonderful piece. Hope you enjoy it. This organ has such wonderful colors. And I love how Boroff interweaves the variations so that they kind of overlap one another. It's intriguing writing. Louise Talma was a student of Nadia Boulanger. She wrote a lot of music, mostly for piano, voice, chamber music, a couple of orchestral works, and 2 operas. Most of this she wrote while in residence at the MacDowell Artist Colony in Peterborough, New Hampshire. She was friends with Aaron Copland and also with Stravinsky. This piece was commissioned by Edith Kingfold. She was a socialite and an actress, and she married George J. Gould, who was an investor in the railroads and a robber baron of the Gilded Age. So I hope she was well paid for this. It's, as far as I know, her only organ piece. It's a canon at the octave. So one voice begins, the other follows. A perfect interpretation of the text, "Whither thou goest, I go." So we have one voice in each hand accompanied by a bass line. It starts out lyrical, lovely, oh yes, I'm gonna like this piece. And then about 12 measures in, there's some very intentional dissonance, which kind of snarls at you and makes you go, oh, are we on steady ground here? An E against a D sharp and a G sharp against an A. I'm telling you this so you don't think I'm playing wrong notes. But then in just a couple of measures, it resolves and goes back to being, a stately and lovely lyrical piece. There's a section in the middle where the pedal plays parallel tenths. And that middle section is in C major, and it sounds particularly stable and also joyful. But it's not to last. So she goes again into a sort of thicket of chromaticism. The writing is very, very interesting and kind of snaky, and it goes down low. But then ultimately it resolves again and ends up in a very peaceful and happy place. With only 3 voices to work with, that's a lot to accomplish. And it made me think about how relationships work. That when you first meet somebody and you kind of click, it's like, oh, everything is happy, everything is lovely, it's great, and then there'll be some stumbling block, some hitch, and you're kind of, you're off balance a little bit. But you recover from that, and then you go on, and then things have their ups and downs. There are places of stability and happiness, and then other places where, it might be an illness, or it could be the weather, that relationships go through difficult times. But I think this was a wonderful, wonderful illustration of that, and to have it played for a wedding, I think was just perfect. Margareta Cristina de Jong is a young composer and very conservative. She writes in easily understood harmonic language. I like to think of her a little bit as the Dutch Duraflé. She understands very well that French harmonic language of the 20th century. She's a big fan of Duraflé, and this piece reminds me a lot of Duraflé's Veni Creator, except without all the meandering. She is just as beautiful, but much more concise and to the point. The piece begins with a prelude, kind of bubbling strings, a crescendo, a diminuendo, and then there is a statement of the chorale. The chorale Veni Redemptor Gentium, you may know as Savior of the Nations Come. It's an Advent hymn. And after the initial harmonization, which is just sumptuous, there are 4 variations and then a fugue. The fugue eventually becomes a toccata and it ends in a big uproar. So this is the time where I like to say thank you to all the people who made this concert possible, especially to Jonathan Poe, who is just the host of all hosts, for the invitation to play and for all of his kindness to me while I've been here enjoying this wonderful instrument. I also want to thank the people of Christ Church and congratulations on making such a gorgeous thing possible. And happy birthday to the Fisk, 25 years of bringing beauty to this church. And most of all, thanks to all of you for coming this afternoon and sharing your time with me. no better way to say goodnight than to play a nocturne. This one is by Germaine Taillefer, a French woman. She was one of Les Six. And it's a gorgeous piece. You'll wish it were longer.